Welcome to Living Love, a podcast about how to live a heart-centered life. My name is Victoria Price, and this is episode 13. What is practice? There's a famous joke that goes like this. A pedestrian on 57th Street in New York City sees a musician getting out of a cab and asks, "Hey, how do you get to Carnegie Hall?" Without pause, the musician wearily replies, "Practice, practice, practice." A few years ago, I had the joy and privilege of seeing a dear friend play at Carnegie Hall. Melissa Etheridge has been a professional musician for over 40 years and has won 2 Grammys and an Oscar and has a worldwide following. Nonetheless, playing Carnegie Hall was a big deal for her, as it is for all musicians. To get to play at Carnegie Hall, one of the most celebrated music venues in the world, really does take practice, practice, practice. But does that practice have to be as wearying as that old joke implies? This is one of the questions I was excited to ask Melissa when I interviewed her for a series of articles I was writing about practice called The Angel in the Marble. The title was inspired by this quote from Michelangelo. "I saw the angel in the marble, and I carved until I set him free." Applying Michelangelo's description of the art of sculpture to the art of practice was liberating for me. It allowed me to believe that creating a daily practice of the pure and simple delight in being alive was not nuts. As you become a love practitioner, you too will begin to see that practice isn't what most of us were taught when we were kids. You know, doing something over and over again until we get it right. That old practice makes perfect thing. Sure, if you want to play at Carnegie Hall, you're probably going to have to start practicing an instrument or singing every day. And if you want to sink 2 winning free throws with 1 second left in the final game of the Final Four, you'd better start shooting a heck of a lot of free throws. What's not true is the right or perfect part. Practice is not about perfection. Practice is about practice, chipping away at anything that obscures our true purpose and passion in life. This is the practice of love, with that big L, removing anything unlike itself. Sure, practice requires discipline, commitment, and consistency, but this doesn't mean it has to be tiresome and tedious, because what happens when we practice is what Michelangelo experienced when he sculpted. We catch glimpses of our inner angels and begin to set them free. In other words, we liberate ourselves by practicing love. Melissa is one of the most dedicated practitioners I know. She plays and practices constantly to become not only a better musician, but also a better performer. Yet her practice is anything but wearisome. On one album, she played every single instrument and sang. She did this because she loves making music. This is why she practices every aspect of what she loves every single day, whether it's writing a song, recording in the studio, or playing on tour. In fact, everything she does, she views as practice. She told me, "Eventually you come to understand that it's all about the practice, not the mastery." That's because practice keeps you humble. And humility is important because it gives you a place to go. It enables you to dream the dream, and the dream is what's going to make you happy through the practicing of the dream every day. That's where the happiness lives. It doesn't lie in the materialization of the dream. It lies in the practice of it, the journey of it, every single day. Practicing helps everything. I can't emphasize enough what a difference it makes in your life. On Melissa's journey, however, there was one thing she never ever practiced. She never practiced Carnegie Hall. Well, of course she didn't, you're probably saying. That's ridiculous. How could she practice Carnegie Hall? Yet, isn't that what so many of us do? We spend our time rehearsing in our minds what we hope our lives will look like, only to wonder why what we imagine never transpires. That's certainly what I did. I spent so much time thinking about what I wanted to do instead of just doing it. Even worse, I was so afraid I would never get to where I wanted to go that I forgot to go there at all. I twisted myself up in knots so much so that I lost the pure and simple delight in being alive. When our journey is filled with purpose and passion, we can't get fooled into thinking the destination is our real goal. If Melissa had never played Carnegie Hall, her life as a musician and a person would have been filled with the same joy and meaning because by practicing, she's always living love. I hope Melissa's story inspires you as much as it inspires me to practice life, practice living, practice loving, practice learning, and practice finding joy in all you do. Right now, that is more important than ever. So join me next week as we dive into the 4 components of practice as we wrap up this chapter and this season. Until then, keep living